most climbers wish that we were born 8 years earlier because we always want to be the first to climb all these great mountains. But the truth is, it doesn't really matter because mountains are just so unpredictable and alive that every climber who climbs just has a completely unique experience. So with most things climbed, my passion is to find the biggest and most unclimbed and remote and scary looking mountains out there. And then to find a challenge and become part of this mountain and a vertical world is just hugely rewarding. The other thing is that climbs and mountains leave behind, each of them leave behind a specific memory. And there were two very basic things of life that I remember experienced on Serra Torre in Patagonia. It's a classic line of over 1,000 meters of sheer vertical rock. Oh, shit, I forgot one line. Oh, the one thing that big walls are about is pain and misery. And I think all climbers would agree on it. But it leaves you with some really valuable life experiences. Anyway, back to Serra Torre. It's over 1,000 meters of sheer vertical rock and probably one of the bigger challenges I've ever done. And I must say, even if I look at it now, I'm quite intimidated. But we did it in about double the amount of time we thought it would take. And one reason for this was an unexpected lack of water. We carried about 2 liters each from our base camp that would see us through the first day. And thereafter, we would melt snow for water. But we underestimated the climb, and it took much longer than we thought. So by the end of the third day, we were only about a third of the way up this climb. And we had to find a really miserable, tiny, uncomfortable ledge to spend the night. Our climbing gear is quite heavy, so we didn't take any mats or sleeping bags. We probably carried about 10 kilograms each. So we just took down jackets and spent the night in down jackets, huddled together for a bit of warmth, and that's how you sleep. So my climbing partner, Duard Leroux, he set off to melt our first set of water. And in the middle of all this, I heard this echo of metal down in the glacier below. It was the sound of our pot and cooker. But I also know Duard well enough to know that this definitely wasn't the time to discuss the implications of what just happened. So we both knew this meant no food and water for a while. So we spent the night like that. Nevertheless, the next day was quite tough going, but we thought we'd go ahead and leave as much as possible behind, take bare essentials. But we still climbed with about 7 kilos each, so the going was really tough. And the plan was to continue climbing until the sun would melt some of the snow, and we could just drink from the puddles. But it was a long day, and it took a while, and eventually we could hear the water. In fact, we could see it. It sounded like a waterfall. It was really just a little puddle, not too far away, about 5 meters or so. But we were on a sheer face, and we simply could not get to this water. And it was absolute torture because we could smell it. We were so thirsty. But we continued climbing, and only much later in the day did we get to a crack with a little bit of water running down. But it was really little, so the only way to drink it was to literally suck yourself to the rock and try and drink as much as possible water, which wasn't a lot, and probably made it worse, but that's how we drank water for the rest of the climb. And then, since then, I've actually added some straws to my big wall rack. But the bad thing about everything melting is that the big things also melt. And this was my first ever ice climb. So I was quite nervous on the ice climbing pitches, or on the ice pitches, and late in the afternoon we had to do this quite exposed ice traverse with a big roof over it. And as I got to the end of the roof, this huge chunk of ice, the size of a taxi, came crashing down 2 meters away from me. And this should have freaked me out completely, but I think by this stage we were so exhausted and tired that I was simply too tired to be scared. So with that, we spent another night on the mountain with our feet dangling into space. And you're on a vertical wall, you're always clipped in, you never sleep, you're never really comfortable. You just sit and you wait for the sunrise, really. Maybe the next day when the sun comes out, you sometimes doze off a little bit, but you don't sleep at night when it's cold. But eventually we did get to the summit, which was really amazing, and we had this spectacular view and clear day, so we could see the start of the Patagonian ice cap. It was really amazing. It just makes any pain and misery worthwhile, and it's really worth it. But of course we're on top, and we still had over 1,000 meters to abseil. That works out to about 28 abseils. And that just doesn't go quick, because you abseil and you pull your rope and it will get stuck, and you have to pull the rope, you have to climb the pitch again, and it just really kills your spirit. So with all of that, we actually had to spend a third night on the mountain, about 300 meters below the summit. Friends of ours were on the climb as well a day ahead of us, and they got wind of our pot and cooker at the glacier below. So they left us their pot and cooker. But we were out of luck, because after spending about an hour melting snow, turns out that they burnt their soup the night before. And this water was absolutely vile tasting. We simply couldn't drink it. In fact, after 2 sips, Duarte threw up the little supper he had left from 4 days before. And it was really, we were really down and out. So all of the next day we had to spend abseiling, and by now we were so tired, our bodies kicked into a type of auto mode. Our minds had left us, and it really just felt like we were floating all the way down to the last abseil, which we had to abseil off one ice screw. This should have freaked me out as well, but by now we were going on to our 4th night on the mountain, and we really just wanted to get down. So we abseiled off it, and it was actually solid. But we had to cross some really nasty crevasses, and eventually, well after midnight, we stumbled back to our tent. And I think we came pretty close to find out how far we could push ourselves. And there's a certain satisfaction and relief to know what your limits are and that you can actually cope with it. And then it sort of takes roughly 3 cups of tea to forget about the pain and to come up with your next mountain.